Chapter 1, Belated Golden Finger. My name is Fang Yu. When you read these words, I am already dead. In an inaccessible dense forest, there is a bamboo building. Fang Yu was sitting cross-legged in the bamboo building, looking at the last words he had written with satisfaction. As written on the paper, he is a time traveler, and he traveled through a world of cultivating immortals. At first he wasn't easy. After all, in the world of immortality, mortals are like nothing. But then, he got to pieces of news, one good and one bad. Good news, he has spiritual roots. Bad news, low-grade spiritual roots. After refining Cha for more than 100 years, his cultivation will always remain at the peak of the 6th level of Cha refining. Stuck at the bottleneck in the late stage of Cha refining. In the Cha refining period, the lifespan of a monk is 110. He is 140 years old today. If nothing unexpected happens, he will die. Fang Yu couldn't help but chuckle when he thought that. He had been adhering to the concept of practicing Taoism and cultivating immortality all his life and walked all the way to today. So many, he has never heard of a monk in the Cha refining stage. You can live for 110 years. He doesn't know if this is considered an achievement. You can live longer if you keep living, but unfortunately your talents are limited, and your lifespan will eventually be exhausted. Look at the secret books next to the envelope. Fang Yu smiled slightly, and this was the inheritance he left to future generations. However, when it comes to inheritance, it is nothing more than a low-level spell and a few low-level spells. Just as he was thinking about it, there was a sudden rustling sound outside the bamboo building. Fang Yu saw a young man covered in blood holding the bamboo and looking up at Fang Yu with an extremely weak voice. "Help me." After saying that, the young man could no longer hold himself up and fell to the ground. Looking at the gorgeous clothes in front of me, I don't look like an ordinary person at first glance. Fang Yu was stunned. This kind of person looks like the kind of person who has a deep sea of blood. To stay true to the past, those who uphold the ideal of Taoism must hide as far away as possible. But now, his life is running out, so it doesn't matter anymore. So, he saved this young man. 1 month later, under Fang Yu's treatment, the young man's injuries were almost healed. At the same time, Fang Yu knew the young man's name, Yi Junlin. As for the young man's family background, Fang Yu didn't ask much, and Yi Junlin didn't say anything. On this day, Fang Yu stood by the window, looking at Yi Junlin who was chopping firewood outside, and nodded with satisfaction. Although Yi Junlin didn't like to talk, he still worked very hard. In order to thank Fang Yu for saving his life, he took the initiative to take on various chores. Creak, Fang Yu opened the door and walked in. He looked at Yi Junlin who was chopping firewood and said, "Yunlan, take a rest." Yi Junlin stopped, standing there, with no sparkle in his eyes. Fang Yu sighed in his heart and said softly, "Yunlan, are you willing to accept me as your teacher and embark on the path to immortality?" Fang Yu's voice was not loud, but it was like thunder in Yi Junlin's ears. "Immortal? Benefactor, you are a cultivator of immortality." Yi Junlin's face was full of surprise and excitement. Originally he had given up, but now that he learned that Fang Yu was a cultivator, a glimmer of hope arose in his heart. Seeing Yi Junlin's surprised look, Fang Yu nodded slowly. "Yes, I wonder if you would like to become my teacher." As early as when he rescued Yi Junlin, Fang Yu noticed the slight would attribute spiritual energy on his body, and knew that Yi Junlin, like him, would attribute spiritual roots. As for the level of spiritual roots, Fang Yu couldn't tell, so he needed to use special spiritual weapons or talismans. However, he himself only has low-grade spiritual roots, and he is not as talented as Yi Junlin. After a brief moment of surprise and excitement, Yi Junlin immediately knelt down and kowtowed heavily to Fang Yu 3 times. Junlan pays homage to master. Seeing Yi Junlin taking the road like this, Fang Yu smiled and said, "Get up." Then, he took a secret book from the storage bag. The words with spiritu were clearly written on it. "This is the method practiced by my master. You and I have the same wood attribute spiritual roots. Practicing this method complements each other. Wood spirit technique is a low-end method that is popular in the world of cultivation. It can only be practiced in the late stage of Cha refining, and there is no way to break through and build the foundation." Yi Junlin took the wood spirit Ju and his eyes showed a vitality that had never appeared in this month. In his eyes, this is not only a secret book for cultivating immortals, but also a hope. Thank you, Master. Junlan will definitely live up to Master's expectations. After Yi Junlan cowed out heavily a few more times, Fang Yu began to explain to him the key points of practicing with spirit art. Then he asked Yi Junlan to meditate in the yard. Looking at Yi Junlan, who was concentrating on his practice, Fang Yu couldn't help but think of when he first started practicing. He obtained this secret book from the residence of a casual cultivator, and began to practice all the way. And fortunately, now, at the end of his life, he has not been able to practice this book to the extreme. Although this method is low level, it is the easiest wood attribute method to get started with and is also one of the most widely spread low-level methods. However, although it is the easiest way to get started, it is not easy at all to get started. Wanting to be a Fang Yu took a full month to get started with wood spirit art. Of course, this Fang Yu only has low-grade spiritual roots. If you have high-grade spiritual roots, you can get started on the day. 3 days for earth-level spiritual roots are enough to get started, while only 1 day is enough for heaven-level spiritual roots. Fang Yu thought, although he has never seen a genius with Changpin spiritual roots, it does not prevent him from understanding the power of this spiritual root from various classics. The most gifted person he had ever seen was a genius with earth-grade spiritual roots. Now, he might have already become a foundation-building cultivator, or even been striving for the golden elixir realm. Fang Yu just watched Yi Junlan quietly for a stick of incense. After confirming that he had entered a state of meditation, he was ready to turn around and rest. As the deadline approached, he was less and less willing to move. His hair gradually turned gray, giving him a sense of old age. Lifting up a strand of white hair, Fang Yu couldn't help but sigh. This is the feeling of being on the verge of death. Even the anti-aging pill couldn't maintain his youthful appearance, and his white hair had become more and more in recent days. Thinking of this, Fang Yu suddenly smiled freely. At the end of his life, being able to meet a seedling of immortal cultivation is considered to have a legacy in this world. Thinking of this, Fang Yu turned around and walked away. He was going to write a new suicide note. As for Yi Junlan, he had just started. He was talented enough to succeed in the chair refining stage within half a month. However, the probability was not high. After all, in the world of immortal cultivation, only those who succeeded in the chair refining stage were low-grade, immortal cultivators, like him, who needed a month to enter the chair refining stage. However, when Fang Yu turned around, a wave of spiritual energy suddenly appeared behind him. Fang Yu turned back quickly, but saw a scene he had never expected. The wood-attributed spiritual energy in the surrounding air quickly gathered towards Yi Junlan, forming a fist-sized vortex above Yi Junlan's head. Yi Junlan has absorbed Qi. It took only 1 stick of incense. Even those with natural spiritual roots would not be that fast. Just as Fang Yu was surprised, a light flashed and a transparent panel appeared in front of him. Chapter 2: Recruiting a Disciple and Returning 100 Times. After a while, Fang Yu understood what this suddenly appeared panel was. A system that can get rewards by accepting disciples. Fang Yu's information appeared on the main panel. Name: Fang Yu. Spiritual root, low grade with spiritual root. Cultivation, chair refining level 6. Spell, with spirit technique. Quickly scanning his own panel, Fang Yu looked at another panel next to him. There was a word disciple written on it. Disciple, Yi Junlan. Talent: heaven grade with spiritual root. Longevity: spirit body. Cultivation, chair refining level 1. Spell, with spirit technique. Looking at Yi Junlan's talent, Fang Yu couldn't help but take a breath. For him, heaven grade spiritual roots only exist in legends, and spirit bodies are even rarer. Both of them are present in one person at the same time. It can only be said that he is a rare genius. Such a genius was accepted by him. Fang Yu didn't know whether this was Yi Junlan's misfortune or his luck. Scanning Yi Junlan's panel, a line of words appeared in his eyes. You can teach Yi Junlan the magic wood spirit technique and get 100 times return. Wood spirit evergreen, please ask if you want to learn it. Fang Yu chose to learn without hesitation. In an instant, a warm current flowed through his meridians, and a tingling feeling flowed through his body. The content about wood spirit evergreen instantly appeared in his mind. as if he had practiced for countless years and was very familiar with it. At the same time, he also understood that wood spirit evergreen can be practiced all the way to the transformation of the spirit, and like wood spirit technique, which is only a magic in the cha refining period. After building the foundation, you have to switch to other magic. The pure cha of the wood spirit evergreen was constantly flowing through the meridians, the bottleneck of the late cha refining stage, which seemed like a natural barrier, seemed to no longer exist at this moment. After a big cycle of cha circulation, Fang Yu's cultivation naturally broke through to the 7th level of cha refining. Feeling the cha in his body, Fang Yu wanted to roar to the sky, "Golden Finger, do you know how I have been through all these years without you?" Feeling that every time the cha circulated, it improved a little, Fang Yu was extremely excited. For so many years, the cultivation was stuck at the bottleneck of the late cha refining stage, and the depression of not being able to make progress was swept away at this moment. After silently circulating the method for several cycles, Fang Yu estimated the speed of practicing wood spirit evergreen was at least 10 times faster than the speed of absorbing cha of practicing wood spirit technique. With the blessing of wood spirit evergreen, his speed of absorbing cha was 3 times faster than that of an average cultivator with a top-grade spiritual root. Of course, the more powerful the method, the more difficult it is to practice, and the higher the talent required. If he were to learn the Qingmu Changshengju directly, it would probably take several years to master it, and the speed of practice would be slower than that of the Mulingju. After all, he has now directly completed the Muling Changshengju, so it is naturally easy to practice. After practicing for several hours, Fang Yu stabilized his cultivation at the 7th level of cha refining. Walking out of the door, Yi Zhenlin also finished his practice and met Fang Yu. He stood up and saluted. "Master." Fang Yu looked at Yi Zhenlin, coughed and said, "Yes, you have a little talent in practice, but the way of practice is to persevere, and you must not slack off." Yi Zhenlin nodded his head. Fang Yu nodded with satisfaction. Cultivating immortals is so dangerous, and pride and complacency are absolutely not advisable. After that, Fang Yu handed Yi Zhenlin a low-grade spirit stone. "Your cultivation is still too weak. It will be faster to practice with spirit stones." Yi Zhenlin looked at Fang Yu. A glimmer appeared in his eyes, and he nodded heavily. "Master, I will definitely not let you down." Fang Yu nodded lightly, and then went back to the room. Checking the panel, no reward information was displayed. Fang Yu was a little confused. After all, the panel did not explain how to get the reward. It seems that this still needs to be explored slowly. Then, Fang Yu began to practice. The next day, when Fang Yu finished practicing and stood up, he received the reminder on the panel. "You gave your apprentice Yi Zhenlin a low-grade spirit stone, and you received 100 times return, a medium-grade spirit stone." Looking at the reward information displayed on the panel, Fang Yu flipped his hand, and a medium-grade spirit stone with rich spiritual energy was now in his hand. Looking at the spirit stone in his palm, Fang Yu looked at Yi Zhenlin, who was practicing cross-legged. His eyes fell on a layer of white powder beside Yi Zhenlin. This was the transformation of the spirit stone after it was completely absorbed. Fang Yu had a vague guess that the 100-fold return reward might only be triggered when the disciple used up the items he gave. The content of spiritual energy in a medium-grade spirit stone is almost equivalent to 100 low-grade spirit stones, and the exchange ratio generally fluctuates between 1 to 100. However, Fang Yu was not so clear about the conversion of methods. Under normal circumstances, even if there were 10,000 copies of the Mulingju, a common method in the cha training period, it could not be exchanged for the Muling Changqing, a method that was practiced all the way to the transformation of the spirit. After all, Fang Yu had never seen a cultivator of the transformation of the spirit, and he had never even heard of this realm before. The strongest cultivator he had ever seen was the leader of the most powerful sect in Mu country, Muling sect, a Jindan master. There is also a realm between the transformation of the spirit and the Jindan. I am afraid that even the Muling sect may not have such a method. However, Fang Yu cultivated the Muling Changqing method to perfection in the cha refining stage. This means that before he cultivates the transformation of the spirit, he will not have a bottleneck in the method. He also had some guesses about the conditions for returning the reward for teaching the method, but it still needed to be verified. At this time, it was getting dark, and Yi Junlin also finished his practice and got up to prepare dinner for him and Fang Yu. After all, without building the foundation, cultivators cannot practice fasting and need to eat. Junlin, practice the wood spirit technique. Let me feel how you practice it. Fang Yu came to Yi Junlin and said. Yi Junlin immediately crossed his legs and practiced it. Fang Yu felt the breath of the wood spirit technique on Yi Junlin's body, and his heart moved. As he guessed, the teaching method will only be rewarded after the practice is completed. Thinking back to when he spent 3 years to practice the wood spirit technique to completion, Yi Junlin practiced the wood spirit technique to completion in less than half a day. Even if this is just a basic method in the chair refining period, it is extremely terrifying. After checking Yi Junlin's progress in practicing the magic, Fang Yu asked him to cook. Holding the middle-grade spirit stone in his hand, Fang Yu had a plan in mind. After practicing the wood spirit evergreen, Fang Yu could feel his lifespan more accurately. He already felt that his lifespan was about 10 months. Within 10 months, he would build a foundation from the 7th level of chair refining. If he failed, he would die. In the past, he would not dare to think about it. After all, the closer to the end of life, the more the cultivator's Chan blood would decay, and the more difficult it would be to break through. But the wood spirit evergreen could keep the cultivator's Chan blood at the peak, which added a bit of confidence to Fang Yu. In addition to the Dacheng magic, all he had to do now was to accumulate true Cha, and he could try to break through. When he reached the perfection of the chair refining stage,